Today in class you're going to be looking with solving inequalities using both addition and subtraction. So our objective is to use addition and subtraction to solve. This is in your textbook on page 171. So I know some of them copied really lightly in the notes, but the key thing to remember is that you can add to both sides of the inequality or subtract. We're going to see that one also, and the inequality stays the same. So they give an example and they say, well, you know 5 is greater than 4, and if you add 3 to both sides, we now get 8 is greater than 7. Same thing if you have a negative number. Negative 2 we know is less than 0. Add 1 to both sides, we would still have negative 1 is less than 1, which is a true statement. So what we want to look at is filling in these responses and making sure we know which inequality goes. So if it's less than or fewer than, we are using this symbol, the less than symbol. That would be an open circle when we graph, right? If you see the phrase greater than or more than, that is also going to be an open circle when we graph it with the arrow pointing to the right. But when you see less than or equal, at most, no greater than, as much as, no more than, and I would say these phrases are the ones that give people the most problems. You are going to put that as less than or equal. Now, here's the key thing to remember when we are looking at this, is that when you look at this, the at most, if you can think of, when you think of that phrase at most, if you can think, okay, at most, you have to be at most 12 to eat off the kids' menu. So most restaurants might put that down. You need to be at most 12 years old to eat off the children's menu. What they really mean is you can be any age less or equal to 12. You could be 10, you can be 11, but when you get past that 12 years old, then you eat off the regular. Greater than or equal to, at least, no less than, as little as, no fewer than. All of those really mean greater or equal. And if you can think of this phrase at least, with at least, if you have the phrase you need to be at least 18 years old to vote. What they're really trying to tell you is that you have to be greater or equal to 18. You can't be 17, you can't be 17 and a half, but once you turn 18, you can vote. So here's equivalent inequalities. They're going to have the same solution, and as we look at this, if we have x plus 4, we can subtract 4, and this is the one that I think comes out really, really lightly in your book, and it's on page 173. So if you need to open your book to page 173 and kind of recopy this in your notes, you might want to do that, especially the words part. But the subtraction property of inequality says we can subtract the same number on both sides, and x will be less than 8. How do we graph that? Remember, x less than 8. If we are graphing that, we should have an open circle going to the left. Here, x minus 4 is less than 4. Again, we add 4 to both sides. X is less than 8. What property is that? That's the addition property of inequality. This one would have been the subtraction property versus the addition property of inequality. So it says properties of addition, subtraction, and like properties of addition and subtraction of inequality. It says use our properties for subtraction and addition to solve these. And we need to check. So how do we get rid of plus 5? Minus 5 from both sides. Be careful here. Negative 2 minus 5 is the same as plus a negative 5. So we have actually negative 7. What property is that? That's our subtraction property of equality. On this side, we're going to be left with x is less or equal to negative 7. So if we are looking at our number line, we have negative 7, negative 8. Make sure you put your numbers in the right order, or that will be marked wrong also. Less or equal to negative 7 means negative 7 is included in every number less than it. So when we go to do our check, the key thing you want to keep in mind for a check is definitely pick a number that's less or equal to negative 7. I'm going to pick x equals negative 10. If we pick x is equal to negative 10, as I look at that to do my check, and I'm going to do the check down below because there's just a little more room on your paper. So if I'm doing the check, I'm picking x equals negative 10. is I pick x is equal to negative 10. I'm going back to this original one, and I'm putting in negative 10 plus 5 is less or equal to negative 2. And I get negative 5 is less or equal to negative 2, which I know to be a true statement, so it checks. So key thing in the check, pick a number that makes it true. Here we're going to add 4 to both sides. What property lets us add 4 to both sides? Make sure you keep the inequality, it doesn't become an equal. And this would be our addition property of inequality. So because it's an inequality, we don't want to use this equal, we want to say inequality. We add 4 to both sides. N is greater than 6. If n is greater than 6, just a couple numbers on our number line. Open circle means it doesn't include 6. It would include 6.0001, but when we do our check, again, we want to check a value that we know is definitely way out here in the greater than. So again, if we are looking at checking something, maybe we pick n is equal to 12. It doesn't matter what number, just some number bigger than 6. And we put 12 minus 4 is greater than 2. And 8 is greater than 2, so it works. It says choose 2 of these problems to work out with your shoulder partner and put the examples in your notes. So I want you right now to solve 2 of these, and then your shoulder partner solves 2, and check with each other and make sure that you did the check also. So you're going to solve, graph, and check. And the sub's going to walk around and just make sure you have that done. And you can pause the video on this page. It's the same page as in their notes so that they can look at it. Then we want to look at some story problems. Some of you had so many problems writing equations when you were working on your tests and how you wrote them, and you tried to tell me how to solve them, not the equation. So a club's goal is to sell 25, at least 25. So when we see that phrase, at least, we need to be thinking, okay, what do we want? Do we want less or equal or greater or equal? And with the at least, we're really talking we want to be greater or equal to 25. Remember, you have to be at least 18 to vote, greater or equal. The club is going to sell 8 plants on Wednesday, 9 Thursday. How many should we sell Friday? So we are going to look at 8 plus the 9 plus we don't know how many x. As we are solving this, we're going to have 17 plus x is greater or equal to 25. I don't want you to do the solving. I actually want you to have these equations like this. So those of you, you know who you are. I kind of tried to talk to you after your test to make sure how you were solving these. That is again our subtraction property of equality. X is now greater or equal to 8. So now we want to write a statement. So the club must sell 8 or more plants Friday to meet their goal. Of 25. So make sure you have that statement. If you need to pause this while they're writing it, please do so. Last example that we're going to take a look at before you start your homework is that you have a hard drive on your computer and it has a capacity of 120 gigabytes. You've used 85 gigabytes, but you want to download the newest video game on your hard drive. What are the possible sizes of the video game that you can save? So keep in mind, as we are looking at this, that we have 120. So as we do this one, we are starting out with, we have 85 to use, plus, or we've used 85, plus I'm going to use G for gigabytes. And in this case, can we use more than 120? No, because we only have 120. Could it be exactly equal to 120? It could. So as we solve this, we're going to subtract 85 from both sides, subtraction property of inequality. G is going to be less or equal to 35. And again, we'd want to write a statement. The game can be Maybe we want to put something like, we want to say our game can be less or equal. Again, you can use one of those phrases that were on our less or equal that we were looking at. So maybe you want to say can be no greater than, can be as much as. So I kind of like that phrase, as much as. So we might want to say, oops, next slide. We might want to say something like, the game can be as much as 35 gigabytes. I'm not feeling great. I hope you guys have a good day. You're working on your homework. We might have a small homework quiz, so if you want to pause this right now, and if there's enough time in class, I would then have you give them this quiz. So here is what the quiz looks like. So the quiz, I have a hard copy for you if you need to look at. What you're going to do for the quiz is you want to do question 1, A and B, 2, we're not going to worry about 3 right now, and we're going to do number 4. So in number 4, what inequality is shown in the graph? You can leave the video up on this page so that they can do this quiz. Thanks.